Today, I'm going to give you the keys to selling your home in 2023. Hey, everybody, Tim Weigel here, and welcome to Happy Hour, which is going to be your one-stop shop to learn something specific in real estate. And today, it's about selling your home. Now, before we get started, just some ground rules. Well, more or less. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you have any comments on the topic or some questions that you have, please feel free to leave a comment. I will get back to you with all the answers. There's so much that goes into selling your home that it's impossible for me to tell you everything that you could encounter, but I can still lay the foundation for you. So today we're going to talk about some components that go into selling your home. They are: why are you selling, deciding how to sell, the marketing plan that you use, the negotiations, the landmines you might encounter, and then finally closing day. So let's get started. Your why. So there's many reasons why somebody might want to sell. And it's important to know what your reasons are, what your motivations are, because that's going to help you along the way of making the right decisions for your family in your certain situation. There's not one situation that is 100% identical, but it's important to know these answers. So some of the reasons that we see the most often is you're looking to downsize. So your kids have graduated, they've moved on, starting their own families. The house is too much for you. Let's downsize into something with less maintenance. It could be you're looking to upgrade. Great. So your family is getting larger. You need to upgrade to a bigger house, more efficient house for you, maybe a house with a pool or close to the beach or a lake, whatever your fancy is. You might be relocating for work or family. So your job might have you moving somewhere, or you might be moving closer to a family member, or in some cases, maybe further away. All depends on your situation there. Or you might need to make a change in environment. You've lived in the house for so long that you decide you want to move. Maybe you've lived in the house for 15 years and you feel like you're in a rut and you want something different. You do know the average person sells their house and moves every 5 years. So that's something that, it's a real thing. But these are some of the reasons why you might consider selling, amongst others. So what happens is, though, you need to know these answers so that we can always keep this in part of your game plan for selling your home. Next up, decide how to sell. There's more ways to sell? Yeah, there is, and we're going to go over that. So first off, you need to figure out how much time and effort you have. What are you going to do for the sale? How involved do you want to be? How much time do you want it to take for you? Make sure that you're protecting yourself. You don't want to open yourself up to liability. Granted, things can always still happen, but the more protection you put in there, the better it is for you. And also one thing that everyone always wants to know, how much money can you walk away with? So now there's three ways that typically we see people sell the house. There's a few other ways out there too, but these are the most popular. So first up is FSBOs. Secondly is an IBuyer. And then third is a Realtor, which I am. So FSBO, also known as for sale by owner. There's a couple pros and cons with that. So some of the pros, you get to reduce commission, so you are paying less. Typically what that means, it doesn't mean you're not paying any commission typically, because you'll still pay a buyer's agent. Normal commissions are somewhere between 5 and 6%. So you might be paying the buyer's agent 2.5 to 3% and saving on the listing side. But then again, you're doing all the listing work. You are the selling agent in this, essentially. You're cutting out the middleman. So, you want to hear what the other agent's saying, what the buyers are thinking potentially, and get more information. You cut out the middleman, because as a listing agent, we might filter some things out, because our goal is to reduce the emotions of a situation. So now you're going to be cutting that out, so you're going to hear everything firsthand, which could be a pro, but also could be a con. Cons that you have as a for sale by owner is it's time consuming. You already have a full-time job, most likely. You also have a family, and now you're just taking on a second full-time job. Even though it might be brief, it is a full-time job. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, whenever issues arise within the transaction, they never happen at the right time, and they always have the pressure of has to happen to get fixed this second, not tomorrow. It will increase stress. Part of it is because you are technically on call 24/7. You never know when someone else is going to be reaching out to you on the property to schedule showings, inspections, questions while you're under contract. So it's going to cause a lot of stress. And like I mentioned earlier, you are adding a full-time job briefly to the situation. Next up is an iBuyer. So you might not know what an iBuyer is. Just to give you a quick definition of an iBuyer. You see these companies that will buy your house for cash. That's them. That's an iBuyer. So pros of it, less stress. They take care of everything. You don't have to do open houses. You don't have to clean up the house for showings, leave the house for showings, any of that. And it can happen quick. You can close within 3 weeks. They're buying it cash. They might even let you lease back the house temporarily. So each one's going to have different variations. Now, some of the cons, you're going to leave some money on the table. So you're cutting it out. The stress of showings and all this stuff that goes around with selling your house, at the same time, you might be leaving $20,000 on the table potentially. It varies. In some cases, I've seen where the iBuyer is the better situation. I've referred customers there because of that. As a realtor, I do check that for the customer to make sure we're doing the best thing for you. But now I know some of you might think, well, if we're leaving 20 grand on the table, we're also not paying commission. Well, no, technically you are paying a commission. Depending on the company, I've seen it go from anywhere from 5 to 7% that they're going to charge you as what's called a convenience fee. So you are still paying a fee. It's just called something different. Another thing is you might have to do unnecessary repairs. Each buyer has different guidelines and they vary, but some of the guidelines might be roof can't be older than 10 years old. Is the roof still good? Yes, but now you have to put on a new roof. You might have to replace a water heater if it's getting too old, and the water heater is working just fine. Same with the AC. So there could be little things that they might require for them to close. All right, and then last one is a realtor. So pros and cons. For realtors, you increase your experience and knowledge. Okay, I don't care if you used to sell a house or not, but the way the real estate market works is we're constantly changing. We're constantly going through trainings, and we have to stay completely up to date. Now, what happens when we don't stay up to date is you might miss out on something or put yourself at risk. So as a realtor, because we're doing this on a day-to-day basis, this is our full-time job, we're going to have a lot more experience and knowledge to be able to help you and guide you along the lines when you have questions, and you will have questions. It's good to have questions. So it's kind of like would you like to do your own heart surgery, or do you like to have someone that has loads of experience and does this type of heart surgery every other day? The more experience that you're doing it, the better you are. Another pro is, statistically speaking, you can net you more money. So me personally, I usually get my sellers more money than many of you like to check the Zestimate. My Zestimates, I usually sell higher than the Zestimate. And more importantly, when you look at like average sales, the average realtor might sell to 99% of list price, and I'm usually at 101%. So I'm already selling 2% higher on average for the areas that I usually do business in. So that's important, that we can net you more money. And I've seen it happen where people are always trying to save money, trying to make the most money out of this. Well, that's my goal too. The more money I make you, the more likely you're going to refer me. So it's advantageous for me to ensure you make more money and it's as smooth as possible. Now, some of the cons: hiring a realtor, you're adding more hands in the pot. So, you have a realtor and the other realtor, you have your lender possibly in there if you're buying on the other side. There's title companies, there's home inspectors. There's so many hands in the pot. So it just adds another caveat to the hands in the pot. And then also, whatever the realtor you hire, stressors become yours. So if you have a realtor that gets stressed out really easy and freaks out when things go wrong, that's going to transpose onto you. It's going to flow your way. If you have someone that's calm, cool, and collected in a situation, they're not going to get you riled up on those things. They're going to keep you straight and narrow going towards closing. So, but that's one thing to always pay attention to, because if someone that ups your stressors, it's going to magnify you to a point. So now, after you decide how to sell, which method you want to do, the next one is the marketing plan. Now, if you hired a realtor, they're going to most likely have the marketing plan for you. Now, me personally, I break down the marketing plan into kind of like 3 categories. So digital marketing, print marketing, and then of course, open for business. I'm going to explain what each one of these are. Now, I have a large bag of tricks for my marketing, and this isn't everything I do, but this is a lot of stuff when I do my listing launches that helps me get the most exposure in the quickest time so that the home can go under contract sooner rather than later. So digital marketing. I do professional photography. I hire a photographer to come in, professionally take the photo shoots, has the right equipment, does editing on it to help the property out. I bring in professional videography to do a video walkthrough of the property. A few things I also do on here that I didn't put was, have you ever heard of Matterport? Matterport is a 3D virtual walkthrough tour. I do those two that helps people be able to see the property without actually going into the property. If the property is vacant, I will do virtual staging. That way it helps give you good appeal online. I do Facebook, Google ads, and I usually try to aim to get around 30,000 impressions. It's all hit or miss. Some areas you get more, some areas you get less. When I do these ads, I kind of look at it in several different ways. One, I target local. So for example, if your home is in Seminole County, I'm probably going to target Seminole County as well as the surrounding counties in the area. Another thing that I do for targeting is I target our feeder counties. What I mean for that is I look, if the house is listed in Seminole County, I take a look at this website I go to of how many walks. That lets me know what counties are moving to what counties. So I can see the top 5 counties moving to Seminole County, which, if memory serves me correct, are Dade County, Broward County. I also believe it is Cook County, which is Chicago. And then I also have it, I think it's Queens County and Sussex County up in New York on Long Island area. So I target those counties too, because they might be interested in buying since they are moving to the area. And I want to be able to hit both of them. I also, with the video walkthrough I do, of the videographer, I will post that on YouTube videos and promote it through YouTube. My typical videos when I do that gets anywhere from 10 to 20,000 views. So, and then I also like to do what's called a Facebook, Instagram teaser ad. So I'll post some statistics about your house of what's done and what it looks like on Facebook, Instagram, with a couple photos that were taken 24 hours before it goes live in the MLS. So that way it kind of spurs it. And I ask a simple question: what do you think my price is? And based off that, it'll do 2 things. One, you get a lot of comments of people guessing the price. 2, if the prices are far off and they are all very low or very high, it's kind of setting that expectation of what we can expect once it goes live in the MLS. Now, granted, once it goes live in the MLS with the more details, Doesn't mean that lowball offers that we're getting on the Facebook ad are going to transpire on there, but it does kind of set the tone to let us know what to expect, and we can kind of prepare to attack those ideas so that we can get you the most money possible. Next up, print marketing. So with print marketing, some people might think, oh, print marketing, it's not good for anyone. Well, it still is. I mail about 150, 300 postcards, just listed postcards, and I try to time it so it hits everyone's mailbox on the Friday of the weekend of the open house. I want it to be a real abundance showing. I also will print flyers and leave at the house with upgrade lists and a little more details of the house so that people have something to take with them when they leave. And then I also do door drops. So I'll go to like the surrounding 30 neighbors, do a door drop that, hey, we hit the market. Here are some of the details. Help us find your next neighbor. I mean, if you're a neighbor and the neighbor is selling, wouldn't you like to help find who's living next to you so that it's the right person, that's not going to be that bad neighbor that leaves trash out, parks wrong on the streets, and throws wild parties and cause headaches? Yeah, most people do too. And then last, open for business, and you guys might like this one. So open for business, this is just where, as a realtor, technically we can work virtually. We don't have to go into the office, even though we do sometimes. But when we have a listing, the listing is actually our mobile office. That's our brand, that's our packaging, that really tells you what we're about. So with that, open for business is doing everything to highlight the home, have the package, and get people in the door. So for this one thing I do is, unless the neighborhood says no, I install a for sale sign in the yard, and I have one that I put out with a light that shines down on the sign so you can see it at dark. I'll host an open house. Always that first weekend, I'll get an open house done. I'll do a Facebook Live property walkthrough at the property, so that way you get people talking about it. Schedule showings with the realtors that have seen it through the MLS. Here's a fun one. I conduct a broker's open. What that is depending on my plan, I might do a broker's open with some of the top realtors that sell in that neighborhood or that area. And I kind of do it maybe the day before, as I see it before it hits the MLS, so that if you have a buyer, you can potentially bring them out or talk to them about it. Makes them look good and helps us get the right person for your house, so we can find that qualified buyer that will satisfy what you're looking for as a seller. And of course, follow up for feedback. We can do everything right, but the most important thing that we do whenever selling a house is listen to the feedback. Certain feedbacks you can fix, others it has to be monetary to fix it. But if we don't listen to it, that's why houses will sit on the market, because we ignore the feedback that is going to set the tone. I mean, I guess the best way to look at it is, think back in high school when guys are trying to ask girls out on dates and things like that. Guys are all excited for asking the date, but they don't listen to the girls that they're asking out. If they did, they'd have an understanding of what would get them to say yes to go on a date with you. But instead, they might not get that yes and they get blown off. Or if the guy's good at listening, then they get the date. Same thing. We got to listen to the feedback so we can adjust properly for what the market's doing, because the market's going to tell us the truth. We could speculate all we want. Doesn't matter. The market is what the market is. All right. So next up, we did the marketing. We got you the exposure. Now we move into the negotiation phase. So with negotiations, and this is where it gets a little tough. You have to always look for a win-win situation when negotiating. A lot of times you want to win, you want them to lose type thing, turn into a competition. But if both parties win, the transaction is less stressful and a lot easier. So always look for a win-win situation, and don't just look at it from your needs, look at it from an understanding point of what their needs are as well. Keep emotions out of it. That's always a big thing. which is like when you do for sell by owner. Like I sold my own home last year. So, and I'm a realtor, and emotionally it's tough. So when you're selling your home, it's almost like anyone asks questions, things like that, you might get insulted by what they say about your house. And it's stressful and it's frustrating, but you need to keep the emotions out of it. That's one of the benefits of a realtor, because a realtor will block you from those emotions, because there's certain things that don't really help you with your transaction, because at the end of the day, you want what you want, they want what you want. We're trying to help you come together for an understanding of a common ground. Also, whenever you're doing the negotiations, consider your holding costs. What's the cost if you kept the house on the market for another month or two? So when negotiating, like if you're $500 off, but it costs you $2,000 to hold it for another month, it might not be bad to give them the $500, because at the end you're saving potentially $1,500. So you got to understand those holding costs. Also understand bluffs. A lot of times buyers or sellers might bluff each other, and that is completely fine. But don't panic. You got to stay calm. And, it's kind of like, let's see who blinks first, because they might ask for something and you might not want to do it. And it's fine to say no to certain things. But just because they asked doesn't mean that you have to say yes or they're going to walk away. Odds are they're probably not going to walk away, because they're putting the time and effort to make an offer and go this far. So they're going to want to take it to the finish line. They're just trying to see what they can get out of you. And of course, make sure you read the situation. It's important to read the situation, understand their needs and what your needs are, because that's where you come from, a place of strength whenever negotiating, so that you can come up with that win-win situation that you need and they need. Now, landmines. So you got yourself under contract for the negotiations. Now, there are certain landmines that can definitely throw you off as a seller. So, and today there's numerous landmines that can happen, but the most common ones are the ones we're going to talk about, because these are the ones you'll probably see. So first up, the inspection. So whenever we're kind of in a phase where I see this a lot. Buyers feel they have a right to ask for everything under the sun because they've seen it happen. And they think it's like another opportunity to negotiate. It's not. You as a seller can say no to their inspection requests, but they still might come up with the inspection requests. And it's about finding that happy medium. So what I recommend for any seller is you got to break up their inspection requests into items to address, items not to address. Now, when I'm talking about items to address, these are basically kind of like two categories that I always try to walk my sellers through. They're items that you, whether it's them or someone else, you're going to have to take care of because they found on the inspection. Or it's something that is so simple, I will take care of it out of goodwill, in hopes that if something else comes up down the road, that I've built that goodwill, that I don't have an issue with that from you. So when I say major things that you have to address, AC issues, electrical issues, major electrical issues, roof leaks, roof issues, those are something, plumbing issues, those are all things that, whether it's them or someone else, you're going to have to address it. So you might as well address it with the one that's got you the contract versus the next one who doesn't have you a contract yet, and it could be worse than the one you got. And then, of course, little stuff that might make people feel better, which varies. Now, items not to address are some of the silly ones. I've seen on inspection requests where people ask us to repaint the exterior. No, that's cosmetic. I've gotten a request once where they wanted us to clean the leaves out of the gutter. Now, the person that was selling was actually downgrading houses, elderly lady, 75. Her husband recently passed away. So they wanted her to clean the gutter. The answer was no. We are not going to clean the gutter. It didn't make any sense. So those are little silly stuff that isn't going to make a big deal for that. But, we negotiate down on that and do what's best for both parties. Then after we get through the inspection, the next big thing that could come up is, oh boy, the appraisal. The appraisal is something to keep you up at night. Because at least with the inspection, you can usually talk your way through a lot of those things. With the appraisal, you can be dead in water before it starts. So always, always, always keep an open mind with the appraisal. Because if the home does not appraise, you might not be getting that full contract price. Also, if you're not getting that full contract price, don't think that you should back out in hopes that the next contract is going to be able to get appraised at a higher price. You don't know. It's the great unknown. I know everyone in here likes to know yes or no answers, but it's really a maybe. Maybe it'll appraise higher, but it could also appraise lower. You want to take that chance? So always keep an open mind so that you can find a solution with appraisals and then try to be reasonable. I've seen some sellers where they're like $50K off and they refuse to come down. I'm not coming down a dime. So the buyer has to decide if they're going to bring the extra $50K to come up to price. The one that was like that, I was able to get them down to basically splitting it 50-50, but it took like 12 days to make it happen and definitely a lot of stress, but we got there. But with the appraisal, you got to think of that. What can you do? And also, if the appraisal comes in low and it's an FHA, the next FHA one for like 4 months is going to come in exactly as that appraisal. That's just the way FHA works. So puts you in a pickle anyway. So you always got to try to figure out the way, be creative, and see what we can do. Your realtors are going to help you, guide you through that process to come up with the win-win solution for you. But at the end of the day, these are your two biggest landmines that you're going to encounter. All right. Finally here, the closing. So with the closing, a lot of it from a seller standpoint, you're just preparing for your final walkthrough. So you're going to move out all your furniture before the buyer does their final walkthrough. There's a few things that sellers will do that will upset buyers that could cause the closing to go south. I mean, we always find a way to get through it, but it definitely adds pressure and tension on the buy side for the seller. So one of it is after you move out, make sure you tidy up, clean up. I've been in some houses where it didn't look like they touched anything to anything. Like, do a quick move out clean, whether it's you or you hire someone, it's up to you. Also, fix the little issues from moving out. For example, what I'm talking about, say if you have a wall that you've had a lot of pictures on that you took down and pulled out the nails, patch the nails. It just adds a little nice texture. Or if you're not sure if the future owners would like that, ask. We'll tell you. Organize your keys and garage door opener and whatever else you need to give to the new owners so they have it. And then schedule the utility shut off. And what I would do too is, like, say for example, if you're scheduled to close on Wednesday, maybe schedule the shutoffs on everything on Friday. It'll probably end up being sooner because as they schedule to activate everything, it'll kind of bump your cancellation sooner. But say with the chaos of everything, sometimes it's just a nice thing to do for the buyers and they'd greatly appreciate it. And, with utilities like electric, that's not a big deal. Where it gets challenging is with the water, because a lot of times water, they can't even do it until they get the closing statement. So, and you don't want to leave them with a couple days with no water because they can't get to the utility place to do it. And it all depends. It varies on municipalities. So, but that's all I got for your keys to selling your home in 2023. I hope you all enjoy. I definitely enjoyed making this presentation for you and going over it. Selling your home is definitely not easy. It's very complicated with a lot of emotions and monkey wrenches that get thrown at you all the time that you have to dodge. But if you have any questions or need any guidance on that, give me a call. I'm here for you. And next month, in the month of August, we are going to be doing our happy hour specifically on investment properties. So if you're thinking about investments or how it goes into it or the pros and cons of that, you're not going to want to miss this one. It's going to be exciting. Look out for it mid-month August. Talk to y'all later.